right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another art conversation. I hope you're enjoying your summer and this beautiful day. I'm pleased to introduce our today artist, Jessica Hancock. Jessica is an excellent artist, illustrator, and designer of fine art. And she's our guest for today. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you, Farrin?
Thank you. I'm fine. I'm fine. Welcome to our conversation.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine. All right. So let's get started. Would you please tell us about yourself and your background and who you are before we start going through your artwork?
Sure. I'm Jessica Hancock. Some of you may see my work in this presentation and on my website as Springman was my maiden name. I'm 47 years old. I've been drawing all my life, but I didn't always work in art full time. When I started college, I made a conscious decision to pursue two things, communications and art. And I have a dual degree from Westminster College here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I have a professional career that saw me working at a division of Kroger, at a division of Gannett, at the Nielsen Corporation, working in marketing analysis and client development. But the whole time I did that, I always had my art going on in the background. And it wasn't until about 2013 I got up the courage to enter my first gallery exhibition. And the picture that's back here on my right is the one that I entered into the self-portrait show at Gallery 924 in Indianapolis. And it was a success. People had great things to say. It was very encouraging, and I kept going with it. And in 2017, I was honored with membership in the National Association of Women Artists. Since that time, I've been in almost 70 shows, about 10 or 12, I want to say, solo exhibitions, and I've been in many publications. So it's been a blessing to work in my art and try and make that my profession. So here on the screen, you can kind of see just a quick update. On the next slide, Farrin.
Okay.
So these are some of the professional affiliations that I've associated myself with. I do ink drawing for the most part. That is my preference and where I think my skill is strongest. But I'm also a watercolorist, so that when I do put color to my art, it's almost always watercolor. I have a penchant for Holbein watercolors. That's my personal favorite. But in general, that's why I'm part of so many watercolor societies. I haven't won any awards or anything being part of them, but it was an opportunity to, just get out there, show people my watercolor work and just see what they thought. So it looks like this is my website. Farrin wanted to show people this. I built my website from scratch.
Yeah, I was just thinking to show your website a little bit, then go through PowerPoint, which I have some of your artwork and you're going to walk through art.
Sure. So, I built my website from scratch. I think one of the hardest things that an artist will ever do is try and promote themselves on a website. It took me a long time to get this website to a place where I felt comfortable with it. But as Farrin mentioned, I have my fine art background and I have my marketing background, but I've also been fortunate to kind of find a way to marry my fine art with commercial work. So some of the examples that you're seeing here that are on my website are good examples of my line art and my watercolor and my attention to detail kind of coming together for album covers and book illustrations. And, there are a lot of portfolio type pieces in here, just because a lot of the work that I do, goes into publications that really don't reproduce well on a website. I do have 2 books published through Westminster John Knox Press. They're both coloring books, but they liked for this one, for Soul Feast, they liked my geometric work. They thought that people would like to color that in. So this book came out first, and then there was a second book that came out that was also an adult coloring book that was more abstract designs that incorporated more real things like flowers and birds and fish, things of that nature.
Wonderful. all, you do everything by hand, right? I mean, I know like many people asking you because when they see this intricate design, they are wondering how you doing it. First of all, what type of paper you use, or like, board, what you use, and then how you doing
Sure.
this?
Everything I do is done by hand. I do have a computer, obviously. I do not have a tablet. I don't draw anything digitally. When I go to reproduce my work, it's always just done with a digital camera. Some of the time, most of my work is fairly large, like the work behind me, so it doesn't scan easily. So photographs are my friend. But the paper that I usually use for my large geometric works is just Canson illustration board. I do like to use Arches drawing paper for the smaller works. And when I say small, I'm talking like 22 by 30, which would be like the work that's on the right here on the screen. That's a 22 by 30, whereas the one here on the left, that's the great big spiral that's, super, super intense. That one's 32 by 40. So, they get really large, and that kind of adds to the amount of detail that's in all of these. If I were to count all the lines that go into the shading on some of these works, it's incredible. If you go to the next picture there, Farrin, like here's the one that's displayed behind me here. This was actually a challenge from my daughter, who's a hospital corpsman in the Navy. She's stationed in Japan right now. But she got tired of seeing me just draw circles from the center on out. And she's like, can't you just draw circles all over everywhere? And I'm like, well, yeah, I could do that. So that was kind of where this piece came about. And I keep this one. I do sell my work. And I have sold quite a few pieces, but I keep this one in particular because it was a challenge from my daughter, and it's a memory that I like to hold on to. And then the piece that's back here on my right, I hold on to that one because it was the very first piece that I ever exhibited. It was a self-portrait show that I entered into, and I went through a divorce about 11 years ago, and it was devastating, I'll be honest. And I didn't draw anything for almost a year. And when I started drawing again, I didn't want to draw things. I wanted to draw, I wanted to immerse myself, but the flowers and the birds and the pretty real, outdoorsy things that I used to draw just didn't appeal to me at the time. So I started drawing circles. And then the circles turned into repeat patterns, and the repeat patterns turned into nested repeat patterns. And then you get works like this. They are all drawn by hand. The only tools that I use are rulers. I use a ruler, a compass, and then just my pencils and my pens. That's it.
And how long it takes, for example, to produce a work like this?
The 32 by 40 works, like the one that's here on the left, that'll take anywhere from 120 to 140 hours to produce from start to finish. Works on like the one here on the right on the screen, that is a 22 by 30 piece. And, those take anywhere from 60 to 80 hours to produce. Honestly, what I find is that when the paper gets smaller, my work gets more detailed and it takes longer given the size. So if you were to, the analyst in me wants to play statistics and say, well, statistically speaking, if you were to extrapolate the time taken for a large piece to a time taken for a small piece, the small pieces actually take longer than the large ones.
Yeah, because the details
because they get
involved. So, it's like, difficult to do. I mean, the type of art I produce also, there are some of them because, I used to design carpet art so tiny, which I have to use magnify glasses.
Yes.
Small detail, I'm just wondering if you also probably you have to use sometimes magnify glasses for this, small detail you have.
My eyesight is pretty good, but I do use magnifying readers sometimes to really zoom in on my work. So not a magnifying glass, but close.
Yeah. So, okay, you're fortunate enough because.
Yes, I've been fortunate. If you go to the next slide, so again, this one here on the left is a big 32 by 40. The one here on the right, that was actually an 8.5 by 11. was quite a small piece. And I drew that one specifically for a fundraiser for the Big Brothers Big Sisters Association in Indianapolis as part of a fundraiser. So I do volunteer quite a bit, and I appreciate lending my artistic services to charitable organizations mostly, but I do find myself getting very involved in, local art associations, local art groups, yeah, and just local, I sometimes there like here in Salt Lake, there's a gallery called Art Access that specializes in making art accessible to persons with disabilities. Yeah. And I work with them each year on an art program they call 300 Plates. And everything that the artists that they invite to participate in that event, the little plates are no more than like 10 by 12. They're small, and they do, like I think this last time they had over 400, and half of the proceeds this year their programming, and then the other half went to the artist. This piece here is another 32 by 40. It's all hand drawn. It's all one piece. That one took about 160 hours worth of work just because there were so many lines that go into the little rounds around everything.
And all those watercolor, the painting, all those watercolor?
The 2 pieces on the right they're ink and watercolor, yes. And then I use gold leaf to kind of accentuate the outside. I find that when I do circular type, standalone circular type work like this, that it looks more finished when I put the hard gold border around it. But if we were able to zoom in on this on the screen, you would find that there's gold all throughout these pieces. And I'm sorry that it's it's hard to look at it here.
Yeah, I can really.
Yeah, it's in there. Trust me. On the next slide. So on the next slide, one of the things that I like about my abstract work and working with organizations like the Arts Council of Indianapolis is that people look at abstract work and they say, well, that's all fine and good, Jessica. It's great. I love to look at it on my wall, but how would you apply that to anything else? So I really enjoy working with organizations that provide opportunities to apply my abstract work in very practical and visual ways. So this is the Arts Council of Indianapolis, and on the side of the building that you can't see in this picture is Gallery 924. On the side here with my artwork on the windows, those are the offices of the Arts Council, and they found a way to reproduce artworks on the glass using vinyl. So as you can see there on the right, if you see the woman drinking her Starbucks cup, they didn't realize, it's kind of like when you get onto a bus that's been wrapped or a car that's been wrapped with art, you can see out, but they can't see in. Yeah. So what was funny is that the woman who is one of the directors at the Arts Council, her office sits right in front of that window. So people not knowing that she was there would come and take pictures of them drinking coffee or posing with clothes in front of this window. And the people at the Arts Council, got a good laugh out of that because they were able to watch these people who seemed fairly oblivious to the rest of the world going on around them. But a nice thing too, being on the building like this and having my art be so visual and accessible to people, organizations like the advertising agency that was doing a commercial for St. Vincent Heart Hospital in Indianapolis, they asked if they could use, my artwork on the building to, take that quick, just a quick part of their video for their commercial. So that's what that example is down there. So it's created a network for me, and it's created an opportunity to show my work and integrate my work into more commercial type projects, which has really given me the ability to pursue not only my fine art, but also my graphic design.
Yeah, and also people enjoy it, These are
yes, they do. It's yeah, this was a 2-year installation, and it was really fun. As I mentioned before, I've been approached by publishers and worked with authors. This author in particular her name's Sandy Sasso. She wanted to do a take on a book that was previously published by Marjorie Thompson and create a thoughtful, rather than just pages and pages and pages to color. She had a picture that I drew, one of these pictures. There were 25 of them, and they were all hand drawn. There would be a picture on one page, and then on the opposite page, would be like a spiritual type reflection or a thought, you know, to help the person kind of, you know, have something to think about while they colored. And that was how the other piece was too. If you go to the next slide, that's how both of those books were. I do other work. I've incorporated my, yeah, I've incorporated my, I've incorporated my detailed type work into other avenues. You know, I do spot illustrations. I have people come to me, like the one with the horses there at the bottom. That was actually a piece that was created specifically for a friend of mine, John Stewart, for his, yes, for his equestrian program called K-Trails. You know, I drew that for him just out of the kindness of my heart, but it was almost a challenge for me to see how I could use my style, make it look Western, make it look relevant, and incorporate the logo for his brand. The piece on the right there, The Lost Coin, that was actually a concept piece for Westminster John Knox Press for another book that they were working on. This ended up being a little bit too mature for the audience that they were going for with this particular piece, but I liked how the art turned out, so I hold on to it. And then, as I mentioned, I really do enjoy watercolor. When I went to school at Westminster, my degree is in communications and art, but my art emphasis was in botanical illustration. So I've kind of gotten away from the hyper realistic aspects of botanical illustration that most people know. And I've got, because I have my own style, I've found my style in the world, which is cool. So I find now that I draw the way I want to draw. I always start out with an ink drawing, and I kind of showed a progress here because, you know, people like to see how you work. That's why people like to visit artist studios. You know, they want to know how you got from point A to point B. And if you look at my Instagram feed, if you look at on my website, we've got some videos we'll show here quickly. You know, people like to see how I do what I do, and I like to show them. So for example, if you go back one there.
You just go to one of these videos.
Yeah, sure. So this is a video of a commission.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So this is a video of a commission that I received from a friend, and he has a collection of raven drawings and raven art, and you know, he wanted something special from me. So I started out with the ink drawing. And the drawing itself, you know, it stands alone really well. It does have, you know, the abstract aspect of it in the back, you know, that I'm known for. But I didn't, as an art piece on his wall, it didn't seem finished for me. So I thought to add the gold to it, and it really made it pop in the end, and he was thrilled with it. You know, I'm also a social media influencer for Faber-Castell. And they are always asking me for videos and things to help inspire and educate their followers on Instagram and Twitter. And, you know, I use this same raven piece to create a quick video here to show how I created the feather detail in this particular work. You know, because people were asking me, you know, how do you get so much detail? How do you get your lines so straight? You know, how do you start? And I find that doing this and having videos is really the best way to go. This Welcome Race Fans piece, you know, this piece is
just a quick question about that. When you choose your artwork, and then do you have the concept ahead of time, or you start adding as you start to create?
When I'm drawing work, that's an excellent question. When I'm drawing work for myself, so like the pieces that are behind me, those pieces are finished in my head before I even start. I know what they're supposed to look like. And it's really hard to say that and have people understand, but it really is in my head what it's supposed to look like. And the biggest challenge for me is to faithfully produce what's in my head on a piece of paper. And that's the challenge for me. That's where, you know, I can sit and work for 14, 15 hours until my kids come to me and say, Mom, are we going to eat today? You know, because I've forgotten, because I'm lost in my drawing. You know, but for pieces like this Welcome Race Fans piece, you know, this was actually a project that the Arts Council of Indianapolis put out to help support the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And they have a contest each year where artists can go ahead and submit their idea to the Welcome Race Fans theme. And but you really want to make sure that you're expressing your artistic style when you do this. So for me to create a piece like this, obviously it can't be finished in my head really, like my fine art pieces are. But I knew that I needed, the verbiage. I knew that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is known for their wing motif. Obviously it's racing, so I wanted to put some of the checkered flag kind of stuff in there. But this piece is actually 6 feet by 4 feet. It's long. It was drawn on Strathmore, like a big roll of Strathmore paper. And it took me about a week from start to finish. But again, people, when I tell them how big it was, they're like, there's no way you drew that. So I took pictures as I went along, and you can see very well sitting there on my desk, how I went about creating this work. And it was a success.
You start drawing with pencil, right? Then you can erase it if you if you are not satisfied.
I cannot erase it. Once I put the ink on there, it's there for forever. I will do the general outline in pencil, but all of the ink work is completely by hand, and there's no do-overs. There's no fixing it in Photoshop or anything. I guess you could if you wanted to, but I personally do not.
No, but first you start to draw it with pencil, then you ink it.
Yes, so like if you look at the bottom here, if you see kind of where the circles are and whatnot, so obviously I'll go in and do the lettering first, get everything squared and centered and looking, like it needs to on the page, so it's straight.
You have good handwriting too.
Yes, I do hand lettering. It's not something that I'm known for. It's not something that I actively practice, but I can do it. The nice thing about this piece is that when it was all finished, the Arts Council chose my work and one other person's work to be put on the glass of what they call the Arts Garden in central Indianapolis. It's down by the mall. It's right at City Center. And that was quite an honor. I was very, very pleased to be that person that was selected.
How long they have it there?
This was up for the full month of May, which is typically the racing month in Indianapolis. This piece here is more of an illustrative style. I drew this piece originally as part of the Religion, Spirituality, and the Arts seminar for Butler University, which is an annual thing. They have 2 groups of 12 artists that they invite, and it's artists from all different disciplines, drawing, poetry, music, you name it. And what they do is it's not so much a biblical study, but they'll pick a theme from the Bible. In my case, it was the story of Cain and Abel. And for 12 weeks, you go through and look at how the story of Cain and Abel, in my case, was treated in art throughout time. And then at the end of the seminar, you're asked as an artist to contribute your take on that story to continue the narrative. And this is mine. So on the darker side, if you know the story of Cain and Abel, on the left side here with the snake and the spiders and things is my Cain, and on the right is my Abel. And this piece was actually, it's hung in galleries. It's been all over everywhere. But the crown jewel for this one was a friend of mine works for Pearl Drums, and they had an idea to put artwork on their masterwork sets. And my artwork was one of the first to be put on these. And this was actually the result of it. And it's an absolutely fabulous set of drums. They do a fantastic job. It's like 7-layer maple. It's their high-end set. And, they truly are beautiful. I was able to go and see them at the National Association of Music Artists Convention in San Diego a couple of times. And it's just fun. But it's another way for me to apply my fine art to a more commercial setting, which opens up different doors for me. So, I would encourage artists not to pigeonhole themselves into just thinking I'm a fine artist, I need to be in a gallery. Yeah. This piece right here.
I notice you do also cutouts.
Right? I do cutouts. So I started doing.
There is in your website, which you have cutouts. So everyone, if you want to see more of your work, they can see it in that website.
Oh, absolutely.
So first of all, what type of paper you use for this cutout?
This is Strathmore drawing paper. It's just a roll of drawing paper. There's nothing special about it, other than it's one single sheet. I had the frame custom made. So if you look at this one here, the artwork that's on the wall, if you look at the left picture, the drawing that's hanging on the wall in this piece, it was a birthday gift to my husband. And I really liked that work. And this is Art Access Gallery. They had a show. I was a group show And my paper cut work was one of the features. And when I get tired of when I need a break, I need to do something different, I will cut paper. And I like the challenge of that, because to cut paper, you see people do paper cuts, and there are wonderful paper cut artists out there on the internet. But typically I find that the paper cuts that are being shown are small. They're like handfuls of paper. I prefer to work big. I always have in everything that I do. So, I cut these sheets of paper, and, obviously when you look at them, they're never folded. It's not like a snowflake. It's one sheet. I started the same way I start my ink drawings, where you can kind of see the penciled in information there, on the page. And then basically I'll go in and freehand cut everything out that I want. This particular piece was a commission for this sweet woman here. She is a Jewish rabbi, and there's a gallery at her synagogue, and she wanted to commemorate her mother who had passed away. So everything in this piece, from the word love there in Hebrew in the middle, to the candlesticks, to, her mother made lace. So she wanted to reproduce the lace. So that's why the pattern is particular at the bottom. Everything in this piece means something to this woman and her mother. And it was an honor to make it for her.
The design, you design it, and
I designed it. Yeah, she gave me pictures of her pieces and said, make something beautiful. And this was the result.
And you nailed it.
Yes.
Let me also just go through your website, because like we almost ran out of time. I know everyone can go and see your website if they want. So just one question: what you doing these days during this pandemic? Are you still producing art? Is that affect your work somehow? This being at home and be social distancing?
Social distancing is really not affecting my art very much. I mean, art is a pretty solitary hobby for most people. I have my studio here. I commute from my house to my studio, back to my house. And fortunately, if I can't be at my studio, it's easy to bring my art home. The work that I do, I find that the pandemic has provided me with a lot of time. More time than I usually have, which is something I hear from a lot of people. But it gave me the ability to start a lot of new pieces. I've been working to make connections and grow my network commercially, with art agencies and illustration agencies, trying to get more of my commercial work out there. I'm continuing to work on fine art pieces, like the ones that you're showing here. And I'm continually looking for galleries, art competitions, that I find, fit my career aspirations well. I don't enter art contests that, don't connect me with the people that I want to be connected with, I guess. And I don't mean that, I don't know if that sounds bad or not, but that's not how I intend it. I'm very picky and choosy about how I do things. I don't enter art contests where I know that, it seems they're just collecting money. Those drive me crazy.
Not a bad thing. It's the truth,
Very much so. And I have been, people during the pandemic, one really good thing I've found as an artist is that during the pandemic, because everybody has so much extra time, that people are looking more online, and they're getting more engaged with art, and they're investigating and experiencing websites and things that they probably wouldn't normally see. And, people have been commissioning work from me a lot more than they did before the pandemic and before all the lockdowns. So
I know the sound of this pandemic is so terrible, but also it gives opportunity for people to lay back,
yes.
and look into their life, into their artwork, right? It's kind of create more opportunity, although it's the sound of all those things is
yes.
Oh, it's opportunity. But to be honest, I myself also too, I'm home, and I thinking more about art, what to do, what to create, right? So for many people too. So anyway, we almost, can you believe it, almost 30 minutes. When we talk, the time fast, flying so fast. Do you have any last word for our today guest, Jessica?
I guess last words would be, always keep your eyes open. Always be looking for different ways to use your art to further whatever your message or your mission might be. You know, don't be afraid to approach people. You know, they're just people. And whether you're talking to someone like you and I are, Farrin, here on YouTube and on video, you know, or if you're just conversing with someone by email, be professional, be friendly, be polite, and be honest. You know, just let them know, hey, this is who I am. This is the work I'm making, and I think it would be a good fit, and tell them why. And if they tell you, you know, I love your stuff, but it's really not for me, that's okay.
Exactly.
Someone saw it and they gave you a minute. And as an artist, the mission is to share your work.
Exactly.
And even if they don't buy it or they don't present it or they don't collect it, you still shared and you still put your message out there. And I think as an artist, that's the first thing everybody should be focused on doing, is just sharing.
Exactly. That's what they all do, right? As artists, that's all
Yes.
artists do. All right. Thank you very much, Jessica. We really appreciate your time and you spending with us in this conversation. If you want to reach out to Jessica, these are her information, her website, Instagram, and you can see more of her work. I mean, she has amazing website with a lot of artwork in it. I encourage you to check. And thank you and have a great weekend. I look forward to see you next Friday at 3 p.m. with another talented artist. Thank you very much. Stay safe and strong and love you. Bye. Bye.